Well, hey everybody. Welcome to a very fun moment in time. You have met my friend Glenyce.
Hello, everybody.
She is fast and furiously becoming one of my favorite people on the planet. And she and I are going to be facilitating some classes together called Universe I'll Have That in like 22 days, Glenyce.
22 days.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're watching this today, which is Monday, September 28th, we have 22 days until these classes. And when we were looking at like what we could facilitate on money and business just sort of kept like running through our world and we're like, okay, cool. Well, then what's that called? And we bounced around a bunch of things, but then you came up with this phrase that like sort of just summed it up. And it was this phrase of universe, I'll have that. And so I wondered if we could just sort of like interview each other today and kind of talk a little bit, each one of us, about this tool, because it is a tool, it's an access tool, and then how you've used it. And I'm sure there's 8,200,000 stories about that, but maybe I have no idea, whatever comes up. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I do. I do. And it's a little bit of a longer story because I want to talk about kind of the first time I used this. So I wasn't aware of this phrase like universe I'll have that. I wasn't doing that. But one of the things that I struggled with or chose to struggle with, however you want to say it, for the majority of my life until I started using the tools from Access Consciousness was jealousy. So, I grew up with two older sisters for many years. I now have two younger ones also, but for many years I was the youngest, and there's a lot of things they could do that I couldn't, and so I'd be so jealous that they could. And then going to school, and I had a friend who went on a lot of holidays, and I was so jealous that she could go and I couldn't, and all the things. And then probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago, there was a woman who posted on Facebook, and what she said was, actually, I think what she said was, envy is a call to action.
Oh,
And it really became this like huge light bulb moment for me. And I've reworded it and I say jealousy is a call to action because that was much more of the wording that matched what I was choosing. And what I recognized from that and then started using the tools with was that I would do that. I would go, rather than look at, okay, well, how could I have something like that or even yummier? I would go, and oh, they get it and I don't. Ooh, sucks to be me and all the things. Rather than, hey, wow, that looks fun. Universe, I'll have that. So what I started doing, and it took a lot of work, Christel, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed to say how much work it took
no, don't
me.
be embarrassed. I just realized it took me like 7.5 years to get me out of judgment of my body. I was like, that's a minute.
Wait, I do feel like I'm faster than that, but in some things, a little bit slow. And so it was like within a few months later, and I just started using the access tools, and there was a woman who was doing a very similar business to me at the time,
Mhm.
and she got interviewed on the news, on CTV News in Calgary. And my first, of course, energy when I saw her post about it on social media was, well, why does she get it and I don't? And I was like, nope, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not. So I started using a little bit different than this, but same energy as like, okay, so what would it take for me to create something like that or even yummier for me?
Hmm.
And I just went to that question every time I saw it come up in my news feed, all the things. And so, long story short, within like 30 days, I was being interviewed on CTV News Edmonton for a book that I was a part of. Yeah. So universe, I'll have that is, I mean, I ever since then, I use it all the time. I know that if that jealousy comes up, it is literally a call to action for me. There's something that I can be asking, and it can be this simple. I don't have to sit down and write it all out and figure it all out. I see something that lights me up, universe, I'll have that. So yeah.
I love it. I'm so inspired. I do it so different.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
so great though. Yeah, I just love how we can take these things that are just like total stick in our craw, like fuck sakes, and actually go, okay, that's really not working for me. Like, what can I actually do with this that's different and not not only find something epic, but then it just changes everything. It's like
Changes
that's
everything.
awesome.
So I'm excited to hear how you use it.
Well, so I didn't really understand this phrase. I'm not actually sure when I heard universe all have that. I think I was like 3 or 4 years into Access actually before I heard it, but I recognized that I used it way before. And for me, the very first time was when I had just become a certified facilitator. The journey to becoming a certified facilitator was a very disruptive journey. I was working as a manager and a waitress and a bartender in a restaurant, and to go to all these classes, I had to leave the restaurant. So my life was already in a bit of turmoil because my main income source was disrupted. And so I was really looking at how, like, I needed a different way of living, but I had only ever done it one way. So I'd only ever worked at a restaurant or worked at an office or worked at some sort of building and then had to take time off and get somebody's permission to go traveling. And the life I wanted was opposite that. Like, it was like having total freedom to travel whenever, have the money to do that, which I also didn't have with my current choices. And so everything needed to change. And I had no idea how to do it. And so I remember, thank God I'd gone to some Access classes because I had seen now a bunch of people that were choosing to live really different. And so I started to really look at, I thought I was looking at the how they were doing it. And I think maybe part of that was a little bit of education of like, well, how could this work? What are some of the ways people are doing it? But I think what I was looking at now is what they were choosing, like the energy they were being and what they were choosing. And so, so I studied, and I actually have always been that way. I've always been a watcher. I've always watched everybody else. I remember when I was in Montessori school as a kid, and I state that type of school because when I went to public school, it was a very different experience. But Montessori school is this, at least when I went, is this very gentle, organized space for kids to explore and choose and practice motor skills and counting, but just in a very gentle, innocuous way. So I was raised that was my thing. And so I would watch everybody else and how they did what they did. And I would go around and look at all their different exercises and watch what they were doing. And then I would go pick and do what I was going to do. So I'm sure there's even more right about that than I've discovered yet. But so I was looking at all these certified facilitators going, well, how are you doing that? What's happening? What are you doing over there? And realizing that all of them started from somewhere, and I could probably do that too. So I chose in that direction. I was like, I'm having that. And I didn't really use those words, but I was definitely that energy of like, okay, now what's that going to take? And what I've noticed about no matter every time that I've used that tool or like been that energy is that the house sort of unveils itself. It reveals itself along the way as you're choosing towards and adding and, actualizing this choice. And, but yeah, there have been so many moments in my life. And that was really the first where I had no reference points for what I wanted next. So I had to go start. And so that's how it sort of evolved, is like, as I had it and I created it and like it showed up, I had to start looking differently and go, what are the energies? Because then it evolved and I was like, well, what are the energies that I am having? Like, what are, and the conversation advanced from there. So that's really how I play with it now, because that's what I find. I don't know what you find. Like, the more I create, I'm really actively just creating my life and, adding and changing and the fewer reference points or people around me I have to go what they're doing. It's more like, what's that energy? How does that show up for you now? Do you?
Yeah, it's very, very different, like you say, and it is much more of an energy, and that's what I'm kind of, in a sense, train myself to be aware of. Because even if I see somebody with, I don't know, let's say a new car or something, it's not usually the new car. No. It's the energy that they're willing to be with the new car. Right. Or, I always use Oprah as an example. So many people wanted to have the TV show, because Oprah was being something on stage on that TV show that few of us had been willing to tap into for ourselves. So
Yeah.
people kind of bastardize it because they put it into the thing, and it's like, it's not the thing, it's what that person is being. And so if we pay attention to that energy, it might be, somebody with the new car, but what is it that they're being? And what is that? And universe, I'll have that. And then, like you say, the how shows up, but I wouldn't even say we know what the how is. We just choose towards what's light, and then we figure it out as we go without even figuring it out. Like, it's so non-linear.
Yeah, and I know that, like, I used to, and sometimes still do, look at people that I may have decided have a greater measure of success than me, and I'll go looking in their stuff to sort of find maybe duplicatable pathways, or how you do. And sometimes I'm like, oh, that's really brilliant. And I'll catch myself wanting to duplicate exactly that. And I've been really practicing, like, finding the brilliance, but also like going, okay, and like, what's the energy that they're being there? Like, what are they functioning from that's creating this? Like, so there's that lady right now I'm just sort of eyeballing. Her name's Caitlin Basher. And she's an entrepreneur, and she does this scale for success thing. And as a business creator, and primarily online, I'm like looking a lot for like, okay, so like, what's next? What's possible? So she's, shows people how to scale to like to all heights. And so I was in her stuff today, and I was like, okay, what's this? And one of the things I really noticed is like, she was making a choice, like, she was making consistent choices for presence in her business. And she at some point stopped judging what was showing up. It was like, those are kind of the two things. She had chosen a greater business. She had set herself on some sort of pathway that she was adjusting and changing and tweaking, but she was consistently being present and choosing, and being present and choosing, and being present and choosing. And so a year later, her numbers actualized. The money, right? The money showed up. But what I really got was like, it was the choice she made to have greater amounts of money, and the presence she brought to it that created it. And I was like, I'll have that. Like, and I get to like that, I am that. And I see in my life where I've let it go, or, I've been more lax or whatever. But yeah, that's sort of how this is like evolving now to, if there was how, and you couldn't create business like anybody else, and I know you and I don't create the same, like all of us create different, what could we glean from the brilliance that's out there, and what brilliance are we that I see it somewhere else and go, that,
Yes. And I think that's where a lot of people, myself included, have gotten frustrated over the years, because we'll maybe, take a program with that gal, assuming that if we do it her way, yes, then we'll have her results. And I think sometimes the people even facilitating those classes or courses have that idea also, but it's not that. It really isn't. We can still take those and still, receive some stuff from it, of course, but it's never about the way. There's never like, here's the 10 simple steps to business success, because everybody's is so different. But like you say, it's the choice, and then the willingness to be present in that, in business. And then, within that presence, at least for me, and I know for you also, Christel, is that then with the business, it's communing with the business. Yeah. Like, because the business is a separate entity to us. So for years and years and years, I started my business in 2002. So for at least 10 years before I started studying these tools and access consciousness, I didn't know that. I thought I was the business. So I made all the decisions, and I was the what I call the bossy bosserson, and all the push and the force and the struggle and the hard work to get.
I'm gentle.
I mean, everybody knows that, Christel. We don't even need to announce that. I mean, we got that. Yeah.
Gentle as fuck. That needs to be my t-shirt.
Oh, so yeah, like it really is this space of the aggressive presence, like the, no matter what's going on around, like you say, the woman who, she didn't get go into judgment with the numbers. I mean, she probably did to begin with and then got to the point of like whatever that was. And that's what I find, and again, I'll use myself as an example, is that especially in business or even with money, it's that oh my gosh, I didn't have that number, or I didn't reach my target for the month or whatever. And so then we don't be present anymore. We allow that to take us out of the presence, when that actually could be, even more of an invitation to be present, because we could go into like, what is this? What's going on? And get curious with it rather than the judgment of I didn't.
I don't know how to ask this question, but what's bubbling up to ask you is like, this conversation about presence can seem so theoretical. It's like I associated presence with meditation for a long time, and then I threw out meditation and I was doing consciousness, and then presence came back into the conversation. I'm like, wait, what are we talking about? And I didn't get until I did the gift that was. And you and I were having a conversation once, I don't know, we were whatever, and we were talking about like getting present with our numbers of, financially. And you said something that really struck me, and you were like, yeah, I probably do this process every 1 or 2 days. And I realized, and this process was like really being present with the numbers, what's coming in, what's going out, like what's required. It struck me, and it's actually stuck with me, and I haven't even chosen it yet, but because I'm like, that's very present, because I probably do mine about every 2 weeks. But I noticed for both of us, we both have a measure of success with business and success with money that choice for presence is contributing to. Is there anything that you can say more about that? I don't know if you can or not. I may have just.
Well, and I'll give people a little bit of context of what we were talking about, because what I do, and I've done it for years and years, and I've got many classes that I've facilitated on it, because it's contributed so much to me turning my money stuff around, was that at about the end of the month, I'll sit down with my business. I'll ask how much the business would like to actualize the next month financially. Then I look at all the things that are coming up in that month and ask it how much in each program. And then if it doesn't kind of match what it initially said, then I get curious if there's another program or offering or something else, and get to that. And then throughout the month, pretty much every day, sometimes second or third day, depending, that's when I'll go in and I'll plug in the numbers, so that I'm keeping track of, if it said it, wanted to make, I don't know, 30,000 on this one program, then I know every day whereabouts I am on that. Because what I know with myself, whether it's the number on the scale, the number in my spreadsheet for my money, or anything, when I start putting my head in the sand is when I'll just let it go. And I'll be like, oh, I'm so shocked. I can't believe, how did that happen? So
we're assholes to ourselves within that regard. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. And we're like, but I did it.
Yeah. I can't believe it. So that's what I've done for years and years and years. And I love to do it, because also if my business is asked for 30,000 in that thing, and I'm 2 days away from it and I'm at 3,000, that gives me some great information. But I also don't want to be 3 days away from it and see that number. I want to know, well in advance, so I can look at, okay, what else is required? What else is possible? Did the business change? Did something ask to be different and I haven't paid attention? Or, like I can get really curious with it and I can take more action. So that to me is the aggressive presence in the business and in the money too. And I don't have it anymore. Yay me. But I used to keep track of like past expenditures and, would have that. So I knew exactly the interest rate I was paying. I knew exactly how much was owed. And when, every Monday I would get a little reminder on my phone to go in and put that information in. So I knew what that number was. And that, because otherwise, again, I would be shocked when I owed more. How does this happen? Oh my God. So it's just like,
I'm so inspired. I've changed so many things about this. And, I always see in different conversations, and I'm so grateful for people like you that are, awesome. I always see where I can be greater. And I think that's also the gift of these conversations in these classes is like, you can go, oh yeah, I'm adding that to my life universe. that. that willingness to be present, that aggression, it's a fierce aggression towards a different future. I know that's like kind of brutal words. I don't know. Those are the ones that come up for me, but there's an aggressive presence required of like, we're not letting this slide and like dwindle down into nothing. In fact, we're going this other way. And I really admire that about you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And I was just thinking, like gentle as fuck Christel, it matches, right? Like if you're going to be fiercely, aggressively present, like it all matches. I love it. And to me,
so congruent.
Yeah, it is very congruent. But it's also what I started doing that because I did the other way for so long. And at one point, you got to call yourself on your shit. You got to be like, hey, all right. This way doesn't work. How do I know? I've done it for 35 years.
Yeah. And I'm changing so many things right now in that regard. Like the process that's contributing so much to this conversation for me is what I've been choosing with my body and, really tracking my food and getting a sense of like, what is even 1,200 calories in my world? And because there's just, what creates weight loss, what creates weight maintenance, what creates this shape, what creates that, instead of this really unconscious, just doing whatever the fuck, just ignoring it, just head in the sanding it. And it's cool because I get that I'm going to walk away from this, I get that not this isn't, what am I saying here? I get that this level of detail won't always be required. There's like, it changes. It's like, sometimes you really need to dial it in and like get super present with all the details. And then as that becomes more sort of like a language you're speaking, then you can change and whatever. But yeah, that avoidance of the initial work has been a thing in my life for a long time. And slowly I've just changed it in every area, like with my taxes, with bookkeeping, with finances, with my bank accounts, with my body. It's like, and what that's contributing to the overall growth of everything is really, it's hard to put into words. I mean, we're talking about it, but it's interesting putting it into words because it just does. It's like when you do access bodywork, your life changes. Why? I have no idea.
It just does.
Lene was asking, what's a word other than strategy? And I'm not actually.
Choice?
Yes. Choice. Mic drop.
There we go.
Oh my gosh. So we want to invite you guys. We'll go live some more to just ping your world and also curious about what questions you have. If you guys have any questions from this live and you want us to talk about something else in regards to business or money or living or creation, you can post them here and we'll use them for other lives. But also want to invite you to the classes. The link is obviously scrolling under our faces, very subtle. And you can come for a business class, a money class, or both. And we also have one spot available for a live in-person VIP day with us. And the application is on that page. The registration links are on that page. It's super easy.
There's global pricing too for anybody who has that in their world. And yeah, let us know if you've got questions. We are happy to assist with this. We would just really love people to come and play and really get what they would like to create with money and business. Because, Christel and I have probably somewhat similar from the outside world. It looks somewhat similar and yet totally different. And how we're creating is totally different and somewhat similar. So, what could these conversations contribute to all of us?
Yes. And what do you know and what do you have available that you can access and choose? And I'm so excited. So you're coming out here to my part of the world.
Yes.
And we rented this big, gorgeous house. You rented this. I'm coming to visit this big, gorgeous house in Grand Bend. So it's near the water. And so we also have some limited space for live. If any of you are near or can get near, you're invited to. But we'll be doing it together from Ontario online.
Online and a few places in person for sure. And for people listening to this, because I think we'll probably turn this also into an audio, it's bit.ly/universe. I'll have that. And Isle doesn't have the apostrophe. It just has like, it looks like ill, but it's not. It's aisle.
You love that.
Yeah. Or reach out to Christel and I will get you the direct link, because I know sometimes that's not so fun. Try to type
all right, guys. Well, thank you so much. If this conversation inspired you, share it with your friends. All right. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.